board duties are. So, Texas Education Code tells us what it expects by law of the school board to do.
Yeah, watch out for those.
And it's two things. Oversight of management and governance. And these two things happen as a body corporate. So what does body corporate mean?
Group of people.
Or is that a group?
As a group, in a public setting,
Make decisions.
we're making decisions. Does everybody have to agree? No. And we learned a few minutes ago how to vocalize, what you're thinking before you vote. And then when the board votes, whatever the outcome is, if you're on the dissenting side, what do?
Make sure you're heard, I guess.
You make sure you're heard, but as a body corporate, when the
Then you move forward.
decision is made, you move forward. So you're not out in the community talking negatively about the outcome, okay? Because that's not helpful to community relations, is it? And it's not helpful to how people view the school district, right? So you say your piece, you're either effective or not effective, and then you move on. So the key thing in here, and this is where we get in trouble as board members a lot of times, is number one, oversight of management, not management. So we're going to be talking a lot about that because it just so happens to be something that school boards struggle with. So why do school boards struggle sometimes with this? Well, there are three attributes, three challenges about school boards that make us unique. Some of you, I'm sure, have served elsewhere in the community on some other nonprofit boards, PTAs, maybe some governmental boards and so forth. Well, it just so happens that school boards are not like any of those. So, like before I got on PTA, junior league stuff, when I was in junior league, I was vice president of communications. So that's like, in a company, I'm on the board of directors, but I'm a working board member. I'm responsible for communications. Well, that's not the case here. You're not responsible for technology or communications or finance or anything. You're responsible for governance. Trust me. All right. So what's unique about being on a school board? Well, governance represents widely shared ownership. So in your community, who are some of the owners?
Taxpayers.
Parents, children,
Business people,
city council.
grandparents. I mean, you have lots of different entities. Well, a lot of times, folks get elected and, you're saying, well, I'm listening to my constituency. Well, are all of those owners on the same page? Are they all saying the same thing? No, they're not saying the same thing. So who are you listening to? If you're just listening to, they're all over the place, it makes it very hard. So when people, a lot of times when you get elected, you're like, well, people elected me, and it was this group of people that elected me, and they're expecting me to represent them. But the reality is you have to represent everybody. Well, everybody's not on the same page. Wouldn't it be nice if they were all on the same page? So if they're not on the same page and you're not on the same page, you're all over the place. So here's your community all over the place. And if board members are all over the place, that's very difficult because you have that shared ownership. Another reason is because school boards are designed for dysfunction, just by their nature. So let's talk about, in contrast, board of directors of a corporation like ExxonMobil. So you're on the board of this corporation. What's your motivation as a board member?
Stock shares.
That's right, make money, profit. Boom, we're all saying the same thing. How easy was that?
Make it much money as possible.
We're all focused on the same target, right? What should we be focused on on the school board?
Kids,
Education.
Student achievement.
Yeah, student achievement, that's right.
But a minute ago, we just talked about all those different folks. Are they focused all on student achievement all the time? No. And if you're off in different places and you're not all on the same page, are you going to get anywhere? Not so much. So, you know, at a corporation like ExxonMobil, everybody's focused on profit. CEO sees it's going south. What's he going to do, he or she?
Change.
Going to look for an exit plan or change or something. There's, you may have heard this quote from Mark Twain. Let me read it so I get it right. It's kind of funny. This sets a context of time here. And he says, in the first place, God made idiots for practice, but then he made school boards. So we haven't had a whole lot of respect for a long time here. This is nothing new. There's a movie, The Music Man, you know, not as old as Mark Twain, but if you pull this clip on YouTube, you'll see there are these, you've seen it, so these guys, they're bickering, they're on the school board, they don't get along, and this professor is there, and he's talking about music and singing, and all of a sudden they're this barbershop quartet, and they're harmonizing 4 or 5-part harmony, and the community members are looking on in astonishment. They're like, they're all on the same page. Not in just the same page. They're harmonizing together. They're complementing one another. What a novel idea. So, what would a functional board look like? We're designed for dysfunction just by our very nature. So, I think it kind of is a little bit freeing at times to go, all right, it's not going to be easy to figure this out. Everybody struggles with it, so we have to work really hard to figure out how to make it work together. So a functional governance team is focused on a clear set of beliefs, a plan to carry them out, and constant monitoring. So, do you guys have a vision that you feel everybody's kind of focused around?
We did.
Not yet.
No.
So it's not a shared vision. So there may have been one before, but there's not a shared vision. So, back of the mind, it's something to tackle.
That's right.
Okay. The board is focused on improving student achievement for all students. That's really a message from the top. And you don't always find that in every school district that, you know, everybody believes every child can achieve. So you have to make sure that if you're believing that, you're setting that message out clearly.
And what's key about that statement is the board is focused on improving student achievement for all students, which means that it's improving for the top performers as well,
Right.
because there's always that
That's
right.
concept of we need to focus on, but those kids need to be
Absolutely.
achieving as well.
Right.
Absolutely. And there are ways to do that and measure that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the board sets clear expectations for the superintendent and provides constructive feedback. Right now, on my board, that's something we just kind of undertook here recently after we'd spent a little time,
Mhm.
like you're spending. It took us a couple of years, but we decided, let's do a better job of our superintendent evaluation.
So, you mind if I ask, I mean, you said you guys were stagnant for 2 years. And when you say stagnant, did you mean there was no clear set of beliefs or plan or structure or?
I would say there was not shared
Shared belief?
beliefs.
Right.
I mean, we had it on paper, but in terms of this interchange that you guys just had here, I mean, I'm telling you, that is so valuable. Because that never happened.
Mm.
Because that happened, you are going to be able to break through and be a functional team. Because you said what needed to be said. And the elephant in the room was addressed. So you'll never forget how you felt
Right.
coming into this, being new, or being an existing board member and maybe not feeling respected. You'll never forget that, but you'll go through it. And then you can move on because you just got validated, both of you, all of you.
And
Just
the
got validated.
difficult challenge going forward, though, is keeping that going.
Yeah.
The predictability is the hard part,
Right.
because the predictability gives you trust.
So something you might think about is to build on this dialogue and this team. You know, this is not one and done.
Right.
You have to think about how are we going to invest in ourselves so that we can invest and help our community.
what's also key about that one, though, where I think we're having some challenges today, is this the board sets clear expectations, not an individual, not
That's
the
right.
board president.
That's right.
People shouldn't be attending staff meetings. Board members shouldn't be attending staff meetings for the district. They shouldn't be involved in those day-to-day conversations. It's a board setting the clear expectations, not an individual.
You're right. And the only decisions that the superintendent follows are those of the
The
board.
board, exactly.
So, and those decisions happen when?
During board
During
meetings.
board
During a board meeting. So you can talk to the superintendent, say, I'm feeling this, or I'm wondering this, or, you know, I don't know that you have board operating protocols yet. So if you say, I would like a report to know more about our bilingual education program, just for instance. So we're going to talk about setting out a way to make those requests so that you can follow through, bring a report to the board, and the board can decide, can listen and say, hey, thank you, I learned something, or hey, I want the board to consider this thing or that thing, can you look into that? So everything has to happen there. Everybody has to know it at the same time. And like in my district, when there's some emergency situation, what the superintendent has responsibility to let us know. So it could be like a weather scenario or something like this. Or it could be, I don't know, it could be a safety, let's say. He may actually pick up the phone and call each one of us individually and say, I just want you to know, blah, 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 blah. It's a 1-minute phone call, and then he calls the next one, okay? But we each heard it, right? Okay, thanks. So that may be, you guys are gonna have to figure out what your norm will be.